For Driving Change, this is Matthew Bishop, and today we're talking with Jack Sim, the founder of the World Toilet Organization, who is affectionately known by anyone that's met him as Mr. Toilet. Jack, hello, and thanks for joining us on Driving Change. Tell us how the organization began. I seem to recall it involved you meeting Mr. Condom.
Yes, when I was at 40 of age, I started to wonder when people die, and I realized they die at 80. So I was in a panic situation because I've got only 40 years more to live. And how shall I live it in the most meaningful way? Especially at 40, I've already reached a financial independence doing 16 businesses. So I decided to quit all the businesses, sell them, and buy some houses, collect rent. And since then, 23 years now, I've been working for free, solving this sanitation crisis. And it was also that I took mentorship from another guy from Thailand called Mr. Condom. I was thinking, if he can do it for condom, I can do it for toilet. After all, they are in the same proximity. And he told me, if you can make people laugh and you don't mind them laughing at you, then you will be making them listen. And when they listen, you tell them serious facts, and then you will change the way they think. So that was really good advice and mentorship.
So he helped people understand that condoms were important for sort of sexual health and to avoid AIDS and so forth. What was your mission in starting the World Toilet Organization?
So in 2001, there were almost no media coverage about toilet sanitation because it is considered a very disgusting subject. And so they parked the sanitation agenda under a very glamorous agenda called water. So the moment you put it underwater, it just goes underwater, it drowns, because water is so important that nobody pay attention to sanitation. So I decided that we have to decouple this, and the way to do it is to make people laugh. So we call ourselves the WTO, like World Trade Organization, but in actual we are World Toilet Organization. And the media love it, and eventually we became a media darling. And through this humor, calling a spade, we were able to create a lot of following. And I think that every year we reach about 2 to 3 billion audience on a budget of zero.
It's amazing. So tell me, what are the key things that we should know about the toilet situation in the world?
So in 2001, there were 2.6 billion people who don't have access to proper sanitation. So during that time, I think the world population was probably about 6.2 billion people. Now there's 7.7 billion people. So there's an increase of 1 billion people. And the number of people without proper sanitation has now dropped to slightly above 2 billion. That means during this period, almost 2 billion people have access to proper sanitation. But every year, still about 2 million people die of diarrhea because of cross-contamination. They poop into the river, they contaminate the water, people drink dirty water, they do not have water to wash their hand, or they have no soap, or they don't have the habit of doing that. So I think toilet as a culture is still very, very primitive in the world. Even in the developed world, a lot of men doesn't wash their hands after they visit the toilet. We calculate it was 50% doesn't wash their hands. Then come COVID, and everyone washed their hands because this is a life and death situation. But you see, if 2 million people, poor people, die every year of diarrhea, there is no panic, there is no shutdown. But if 1.4 million people die of COVID, then there's a global shutdown. So I think we did not pay attention to poor people's life the same way we pay attention to our own.
And do you think that COVID has led to the behavioral changes that are actually going to improve people's ability to survive the virus and stop the virus spreading? Has it had a material impact, do you think?
In 2003, there was SARS. And during SARS, everybody was very, very conscious about personal hygiene. But SARS goes away after 1 year or 1.5 years, and all the bad habits came back. So this time, I really hope that the hand washing habit stays, because after this pandemic, there will be another pandemic coming. We don't know when. Pandemic X will come. But I think hygiene is our first line of defense. And a toilet and proper sanitation and hygiene is the cheapest medicine in the world. If you can prevent disease, you don't have to cure it. Can you imagine paying for hospital, doctor, nurses, medicine? It's too expensive.
So what have been the policies that have worked in terms of changing the number of people that have got access to good sanitation? You say 2 billion or so have actually achieved that since 2001.
So our work is the job of a storyteller. And what is the power of a storyteller is we drive demand for people who want toilet. And the politicians, they are of course very intelligent people. When they saw that toilets is now popular, they start to promise toilet and use the toilet as an election tickets. So we saw that telling story about toilet eventually created a lot of demand that drives supply from politicians, because what the politician wants is popularity and power. And so this alignment is really, really working so well. At first, Union Minister Jairam Ramesh from the Congress Party in India built 32 million toilets, and then Prime Minister Modi outdo everybody by building 110 million toilets with his Swachh Bharat campaign. And then President Xi Jinping is, even he doesn't need election, he still needs popularity. And he's also wise enough to say, if we have sanitation, if we have clean toilets, we'll have more tourists, and we'll also have less sick people, and then we can save a lot of wage bills. So President Xi has now become a toilet champion. And when I go to see the toilet situation in China is improving very rapidly. Then last year, Sao Paulo governor started to become a toilet champion. And we also went to the Senate in Brasilia and lobby that public-private partnership should be allowed for investors to invest in sewage treatment, because 94% of all the water companies are owned by the government, and 50% of all the sewage are not treated. So after the World Toilet Summit in Sao Paulo, they passed the law. And these are the kind of things that storytelling can mobilize political will, because there is an incentive inside for everybody.
So you talk about storytelling. I remember at one point we met and you were talking about potentially doing a Bollywood movie about with lots of sort of toilet humor at the start and so forth. And I think this year you're celebrating World Toilet Day with a rap video. Is that right?
Yeah, we did a hip hop song by an Indonesian hip hop artist, and I think it goes very well. It's called Talk Shit. And when we went to traditional radio station, they refused to play it. They told us, you know, we love the song so much, but we cannot have it on air because our rule says we cannot add the word shit inside anything we say. And I told them this is precisely the problem, because you can't say it. That's why we have to work so hard against the tide, you know. But we have succeeded, and then we have got YouTube, we got the social media, you can go TikTok, go Instagram. Nobody can stop us.
So where is the biggest challenge in the world now to actually get proper toilets and sanitation?
I think the developing world at large, India, Africa, in Southeast Asia, like Indonesia, very big country, Philippines, Myanmar, there are a lot of such countries. And when we go to the favelas in the Latin America, there's so many places that needs improvement. I think the way to change it is to make toilet so sexy, so in demand, like a cell phone. Because when they say the poor has no money, I always ask them, if they have no money, where did they get the money to buy cell phone and recharge every month? So they say, well, because it's a priority. I say, yeah, then we have to make toilets a priority for people themselves, and a priority for government to also supply it.
Now, you persuaded the UN to declare November the 19th World Toilet Day, and we're talking a couple of days ahead of that. What has been the impact of making this a UN day?
It's tremendous, because sanitation suffers from a lack of legitimacy, and it is a brown issue, and all the people, philanthropies and corporates, they like blue issue, green issues, iceberg melting and trees, and these are things they love very much because it's very compatible with branding. But a brown issue like shit is really difficult to brand. And so when we create the United Nations World Toilet Day, 19th of November, it created enough legitimacy for government to declare policy and launch fund and to seriously look into the matter officially. So I think that ever since 2013, when the UN World Toilet Day was declared, a lot of government are taking action. And by the way, this is the first time my country, Singapore, has tabled a UN resolution by itself. It's a very proud moment for our country as well.
And I gather that it was the Singapore Prime Minister who said you judge a country by the cleanliness of its toilets that really got you started on this issue in the first place.
Yes, it was Prime Minister Goh Chok Tong, the former Prime Minister. And when he was the Prime Minister, he says we should measure our graciousness against the cleanliness of our public toilet. So that got me started. And at first I was cleaning up the Singapore public toilet, incentivizing the people to say, you're losing a lot of money in the shopping center. If the toilet is dirty, people leave your building and you lose a lot of shopping clienteles. So they start to say, hey, you're right, I'm going to clean up. And then we go to school and tell the principal, your children are not getting very good marks because they're suppressing urination. When the toilet is smelly, they waited until they go home and then they cannot concentrate in class. So I'm trying to incentivize all these people according to the way they are motivated. And slowly more and more people realize that sanitation is so important. And then realize that there are 15 toilet associations around the world without headquarters. So I set up the World Toilet Organization.
So this World Toilet Day, what's your message to policymakers around the world?
I think this year we have to realize that hygiene and sanitation is our first line of defense. Not just COVID, but all the time. Because when we have hygiene and sanitation, we will have healthy people, productive people, and then we can train them, attract investment, create jobs, create GDP, and tax them. And then you don't have to pay for the healthcare costs, and you can create the GDP of the country. This is the journey that I grew up in Singapore. In 1957, Singapore was so poor, and it was one of the poorest countries in the world. And our GDP was $500 when we became independent in 1965. And today, it is like one of the top 4 richest per capita in the world. How did we do it? By having healthy people, by preventing diseases before it happens. So prevention is always cheaper than cure, and toilet is the cheapest medicine in the world.
Well, Jack Sim, Mr. Toilet, thank you very much for talking shit with driving change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I hope everybody, please talk about it, because what we don't discuss, we cannot improve. You are not rude to talk about toilets. You are kind to talk about toilets.
Thank you.